A Way Out, Nicholas Moses. Introduction. I've always joked around with the idea that one day I'd become famous, whether it be a big Hollywood actor or something that felt equally out of reach. The jokes were always just that, jokes. The very notion of me being in Hollywood felt a million miles away, and I would never imagine that a place like Los Angeles could be or feel like home. Until now, as I sit here writing to you from my apartment with the Hollywood sign and clear view from my window and the commotion from Melrose Avenue humming like white noise in the distance, I do feel at home. Candidly, I never had the desire to leave my hometown. It all started with an ad I saw on television late one night. Arnold Schwarzenegger, all of people, was talking about California and how something inside of me started to wonder what life in a state so far removed of mine would even look like. I realized that I knew nothing about this place that I had often joked about finding fame in. The next day, I went to work and the curiosity persisted. Fuck. It's okay, we're gonna keep going. I asked everyone I could if they ever been to California, and I was met with the same sort of melancholy and regret that I realized I was feeling about never have been. Life carried on. A few weeks later, I started a new job that I really was enjoying. Randomly one day, I asked my coworkers if they've ever been to California. She told me that she's been to San Francisco and she actually could be very happy seeing me there. She could see me being very happy there. I apologize in advance, like if I mess up a word, like it's really hard for me to read, but I'm gonna keep going and I'd probably give it a little bit more, juice in this book, but here we go. This prompted me to do a little bit of research when I got home. I saw an ad on Facebook for an event taking place in San Francisco. I didn't know at the time, but that event ended up being the turning point of my life. Things haven't been the same since, and I can't thank the growing curiosity of life that I have now. This book is for anyone who feels stuck in their own lives, whether it be self-doubt, fear, laziness, people regularly making excuses why their lives don't feel that they have hope for. I wanted to write about my journey and how it changed my life. Alright, Chapter 1, The Idea. Did you ever joke with your friends and say, hey, it sure would be nice to live in insert city, state, country, etc. Have you ever actually tried and gotten close, making you move and then stop because of self-doubt? I think about how when I initially started thinking about moving to Los Angeles, I was met with so much fear. My friends, my family, coworkers, etc. all had different reasons, and they thought I should share them with me by why I shouldn't go. There is nothing there for you. You won't be able to find work. It's too dangerous. You won't find success, etc., etc. They were all thrown at me before I could even try. And self-doubt that bred from that almost caused me to make the largest mistake of my life, and that was give up on my dream that I didn't even fully understand yet. But the fire was in me despite all the naysayers. I let it burn strong and give me the courage to push forward despite the harsh words and the warnings of others. Started with an idea. I mentioned in my introduction how something small began curiosity. I couldn't seem to shake it. It required patience, and I had the faith in myself with a heart telling me I was ready to transition to be difficult. All good things, you might find yourself feeling complacent, whether you or what you used to or what comes naturally to you, by pushing through and doing something that feeds yourself, because it isn't easy, and it's what got me here today. If you've ever found yourself wanting a change in your situation, perhaps my journey will give you support that you aren't finding somewhere else. I acknowledge that not everyone might feel the same about their trajectory of life, and that is okay, but for anyone who feels stuck and wants to begin a fruitful struggle that defines a life that feels well lived and lived truthfully, then I hope this book can inspire, motivate, and perhaps just give you that extra push you are needed to start and persevere on. Chapter 2, Leaving. I'm sure that some of you face the crossroads and desire the self-doubt that I was in a situation in my life where I needed to change desperately. I was in a dark place, and I was desperate for new friends, experiences, and cultures, and etc. And I couldn't get that from where I was. Despite being filled with apprehension about making the knowledge and a change in my own life, I knew I needed to take the first step. You may be asking yourself if it was scary or hard to leave, and yes, it was fucking terrifying. Leaving your family, your friends, and life feels familiar is epitome of uncertainty. Once I realized that new places, new people living your life is knowing what lies ahead of you is supposed to be uncomfortable experiences, I was able to appreciate the excitement of the journey. This is how we grow as individuals. I remember being on a plane headed to California, and I was really emotional. I was talking to the person next to me, asking myself, what am I doing? None of this makes sense at the time, but this is how it's supposed to feel. You have to be brave and change your life. You never know how to trust yourself. Each of us are capable of growing and changing. We must allow ourselves to be a part of new things. Our uncertainty and the naysayers in our lives cannot be the narratives that dictate our choices, and I am glad that I chose to come to California and live my life on my own terms. Chapter 3. The plan. One of the first real questions I asked myself was, where are you going? And you should too. It doesn't matter. It could be the usual story, live in a small town and go to the big city. In fact, it could be the complete opposite. For some people, all they know is that city life and the fast-paced living. Those people might want to experience what it's like to live on a farm, or slow down and see what more isolated lifestyle could look like. For both are vulnerable, both valuable, or both different, offer new opportunities to expand your outlook and grow, regardless if you still need a plan. It doesn't have to be a perfect plan, but you have to know where you're going. Take a leap of faith, and then at least you want to know where you want to land. Here's what I'd recommend, making your transition feel a bit more seamless. Number 1, you should know at least one person in your new home. It could be a family member, friend of a friend, but it should be someone you trust. Someone who you can show you the ins and outs of the places that you're going. This person can act as a safety net for information and maybe even a place to stay while you initially figure out things. The key to maintaining these relationships is making sure that you are clear about what you need from this person, and the communication and compensation are actually being actively maintained. You trusted this person for a reason, so don't take advantage of them. Don't expect them to help you out on your journey for free. And be mindful not to overstay your welcome. Remember, being taken care of by someone can look like a lot of different things, whether this is a person in one way or another taking care of you, so pull your weight and be respectful and helpful. Number 2, this piece is key. You must find a good source of income. It doesn't matter if you have a place to live, money talks. You could always pay to play, or in this case, pay to stay. I recommend looking into this piece of your journey before you leave. Jobs can be hard to find and expectations are difficult from place to place. So do some research beforehand and do your best to have a source of income locked down as soon as possible. If you have no money saved but a gig lined up, you're better off having that than money saved and no gig. The truth of moving anywhere and getting settled requires money, and that money will go fast if you don't use it correctly. Never underestimate what a job can do connecting you to a new home. I know from experience a job can be both a source of income and a source of connection if you use it correctly. I'm going to end this chapter with an example of my plan on how I made my move work. I had a homie in San Francisco who I trusted and some money that I had saved up. I did initially buy a round trip ticket, but I ended up not coming back home. On paper, I planned to return home after a weekend, but I stayed. I initially wanted to test the water and see the city I heard much about, and then I came home after and felt it out and figured my next move was home. I had a full-time job that I liked a lot, a girlfriend that I loved, and shortly after arriving in San Francisco, I realized I couldn't go back. Some people might want to chalk my decision up for being young and dumb, but I wasn't happy. Situational safety nets in your life can make it hard to break away from what you are used to, but I was so unhappy I needed to get out. I knew if I went home, I would have just been prolonging the inevitable. At the moment, I knew that living with the regret of communicating to a decision in myself would weigh on me, and I needed to at least try, which leads me to number 3. Have patience. Everyone wants to rush everything right away, but this journey isn't a race, it's a marathon. Some people You should stop and smell the roses and think about your choices. Find your passions and your drive and enjoy the process. To summarize, here are some 3 things that I would recommend before moving to a new place. 1, know at least one person. 2, find a good source of income or a job. And 3, patience. Chapter 4, knowledge. Oops, sorry, that was a chair. This moment for self-reflection, I think about who you are and how you can best adapt your skills and passion to a new place. What do you bring to the table? What are you good at? How well informed are you on those things that you do love? Whether you do know everything about that thing, the reason being is when the right opportunity arises, you have the foundation of knowledge to rely on and feel confident about it. Now take it a step further. How do you spend your free time? Learn about social scenes in the place that you're going to look up, restaurants, bars, etc. So when you go meet people, you could ask them, hey, have you been here? It's like learning a social language of your new home, and doing the research before you get there will help you find your footing and not seem ignorant to the people who already call this place home. Being informed can help you some of the anxieties of being somewhere new. Being able to converse with new people and have a smooth, genuine, great way to more home in a new place, and the people who live there might even respect your effort to learn a bit, which can put them at ease. It's a win-win. A fun fact that you have to learn is the more you travel, the more you learn. And it's a truth. Knowledge comes from having a variety of different experiences, and the experiencing different cultures and places. If I never left my small town, I would never have learned half of the shit I know today. The experience helped me grow and become the person I feel proud of who I am today. It's worth doing a little homework, do your research, and go for it. If you love music, it's the music you play, know everything about the music and your new home. If it's cooking, do the same. Know all you can and go all in. Chapter 5. Pack your bags. Besides actually having your bags physically packed, you should do a few things before leaving the nest. Talk it over with some loved ones, some of your family or friends, some won't understand, and that's okay. It's a great way to get it out there. Some friends and family might have the advice, information that you may find useful, and as I mentioned before, be prepared for self-doubt. It will happen, and it will happen a few times. Overwhelming, and at least it did for me. I brought several flights, and I would quit my job thinking I was moving, and then I let self-doubt take over. Not make the flight and be back to square one, just how I was. Me and self-doubt had us stuck in the endless loop of depression, and I felt stuck and stagnant. I would say all of this with hope of saving you some time. Self-doubt wasted enough time for me, and I'm glad I believed in myself and finally pushed through it. I will end this chapter by saying, yes, some things don't work out. You will meet unkind people who don't want to be your friend. Some people may take advantage of you. However, I have found that if you're caring, honest, and respectful, you can take yourself far. A rolling stone gathers no moss. Chapter 6. Prep. Prep is important. Sometimes a little can go a long way. And it isn't just about what you take on your journey. For example, when I moved from Pennsylvania, California, I used Craigslist. It was I was there, I found a room, a shared opportunity, and I was able to feel like I had a foot in the door before I even got there. We talked about research earlier in the book. Well, a plan is where you should use the information that you're gaining in research to make decisions about how you want to experience and go. If you don't mind couch surfing, the stress that comes with having to figure things out on the fly and what some may feel like exhilaration is just driving headfirst into something, then your plan can look different. However, if your living preferences like your own space, room, bed, etc., I would suggest figuring those things out before you get to your destination. Remind yourself why you are going to find these places to stay and places to work that complement that. There are communities for nearly everything that you can find resources and connections to them online. A bit of planning can go a long way, and sometimes there are beautiful experiences that come in relying kindness, strangers with something. Everything is new and different. It is having your own space and a bit planned to buffer to overwhelming tendencies and feelings of so much newness. Beyond that, the actual packing portion, the prep, should be tailored to what what you want and where you're going. Moving somewhere with seasons, pack accordingly to the seasons while you have a job interviews are required, to take a job. Buy nice clothes ahead of time in your city where you know you'll find good deals and you won't buy impulsive, spend money and might need rent, food, activities, and emergencies. Pack comfortable clothes and shoes that you can explore when you get to your new home. Prep allows you to think about through your move and where you're gonna pack. Bring like electronics like phone chargers and shit that you're gonna need. I strongly suggest buying a portable charger because your shit's gonna die, so you should buy that because it's good. They can wind up being a lifesaver in a pinch. Do yourself a favor and prep that knowledgeable resources. Things will be bumpy, things will be new. It's only a natural failure to occur at time. Again, I mentioned before, growth is uncomfortable, so prep in the way to hopefully discomfort of your best abilities. Feel confident in yourself and know that you won't know everything. Be open to new experiences while keeping the boundaries in mind. And do your best to remind yourself that even in the hard moments are the part of the process. Chapter 7, Emotions. This chapter is short but important. I think most of the part of we assume you're leaving your home, your family, and friends can be emotional for several different reasons. It's important to remind yourself that emotions will come and go long after you even left. It will come in waves, some more than others depending on the situation. When you are home, you're seeing the people every day or people around you've known for years. You might be irritated by someone or even take the presence in your life for granted. When you might even get sick of being around them and want to leave and say fuck them. But the truth is that once they are no longer in your intimate vicinity, your feelings might change. And once you get in the car and you're far away and you're on the plane, you can't go back. These moments and emotions are perhaps the forces that were not prepared that you suddenly feel overwhelming or surprise you. Even after you arrive at your destination, some things can be going well, and the moment things get hard or overwhelming, you can feel all of the doubt. Even start to miss people and places that made you feel familiar. And this is okay. Missing home and wanting to go back is completely normal. Come up with goal makers and set time limits for yourself so the things that you love can be looking forward to and something to help drive during the process. Moments that feel hard and emotional. The only advice is to stick it out and know deep down that this is what you want. Be patient and give yourself time. Chapter 8, Touchdown. Alright, so you landed. You officially arrive at your destination. Yes, touchdown. Now what? Even if you did all the prep and planning and blah blah blah, you probably have the moment when you arrive and you say, oh fuck, here I am. Now what? In my personal experience, I would encourage you to start and get a feel for your new space. If you have a space to settle into, make sure to belong and secure and get yourself at least visually familiar with the new place, whether it's a job or not, or doing a pulse check of your new home, seeing what places are crowded, where the nearest stores are, what the social spots are, etc. It's a great way to feel not like a total stranger. Suggestion would grab a pair of runners and run around and with some headphones. I mean, this is what I did. I'm not reading it from the book, but this is what I did. I get some fucking running shoes and some headphones, and I go run. I go check it out. I go see what it's like, see the neighborhood, see what things look like. Things look different when, you're fucking running compared to being in a car, a train, or a boat, or a plane, whatever. All right, back to the book. Being on your own 2 feet or a bike can give you a perspective that you can't necessarily get where driving or taking a bus or a train. Not to mention it will help you start to get a physical mapping of your new space. It will help you to sense of where things get around. Do not feel like you have to do everything at once. Give yourself time, and if you know people in the area, have them take you around and introduce you to new friends. It might be nerve-wracking and a bit overwhelming at first, but just be yourself and reminding yourself that you've came this far. Chapter 9, Finding Yourself. Just to clarify, when I say find yourself, I'm not suggesting that you don't already have some idea who you are. What I'm suggesting is that you have this opportunity to figure out who you are in this new setting. Stay true to who you are, but also let yourself grow. Sometimes separation from what you're used to doing it can help you grow into our new truest selves. Permit yourself to be in ways that you haven't gotten to explore yet. I only know from my perspective and my experience, but not having a clean state of freedom. But having a clean slate is kind of like freedom that you don't know until you try it. So my advice would be just to get out and try new things. Be spontaneous and be careful, but also be brave and bold. Let yourself figure out what you do and what you don't like, and find communities and adventures that are new and exciting. When I moved to California, I was really into cannabis culture, which at the time was pretty taboo back in Pennsylvania, and looked down upon. But as I got to know the community, I realized I was just starting to find a definition of home within it. I didn't make decisions based on what I would have made sense back home. I made choices of what I made sense of for me in my new home. Do what works for you, and it doesn't have to be cannabis. Maybe it's dancing, art, food, etc. But whatever it is, give it time and the effort and figure out what it truly makes you happy and where you find community. It will make a big difference. Chapter 10, Trust the Process. We are about to be done, so I want to briefly talk about my own experience and how I have learned what I did. Before ever even planning living in California, I made a plan to visit San Francisco. I had a plan to go there with 2 other friends. Unfortunately, that they did not end up working out. I traveled alone, and when I got there, I didn't have a plan. I made every suggestion in this book. Lessons I learned from my own experience. This trip was the beginning of my journey, and I learned from experience how valuable having a plan and prep can be. That being said, this was my first one to California, and I was learning as I went. When I got to San Francisco, I walked to a street that my coworker told me to go to back home, and it was filled with people and shops reminded her of me. And I walked around for a few hours, soaking up all the new sights and people. I ended up checking out into my first hostel. I recommend having a plan if you're sleeping in a situation, because this was nerve-wracking for me. I'm from a small town, and the only hostel I ever heard was from the fucking slasher movie Hostel. Most people might prefer having a plan that allows them to feel a bit safer, but this was my journey. I stayed there and ended up meeting some cool people from different countries. The next day, I ended up bumping into a police officer and asked him for directions. At this very moment, the policeman grabbed me and this total stranger kid and told him to show me around. Again, I suggest prep because you might not initially have to ask for directions or rely on strangers, so I won't lie, I was very scared. I told this kid I was looking for a particular event, and if he could help me find it, I would give him one of the tickets that one of my friends left for me, who didn't end up going. Long story short, what I had told myself was going to be a vacation ended up changing my entire life. The trajectory of my life. Like I said in the previous chapter, give yourself goals, time markers. If it's changed, that's fine, but give yourself at least a little bit of a time frame. It can help you realize what you want and stay longer, at least help motivate and push outside of your comfort zone. And take chances. All I'm saying is trust the process and enjoy the ride. Since that trip, I've used these simple techniques that I was able to move to 5 different cities. I hope you found this helpful and at least motivate your chance to trust your heart. There is an entire world out there that is worth exploring. I found myself when I took a chance and left home. You might too. The end.